Hi everyone, welcome to Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at Outgrow. And for this month, we're going to interview Terry Tateossian, who is the founding partner at SocialFix, which is a digital marketing agency based in New Jersey. Hello, Terry.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for
I
having me.
am very great to have you here. I'm doing really well. So, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. Try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only. And here's
Ooh,
the first question. All right. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
it really depends if I'm in quarantine or not, but about 15 minutes.
Okay. How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Mm, 4.
Okay. Neil Patel or Gary Vaynerchuk?
Ooh. Neil Patel,
Okay. The biggest mistake of your career?
starting an agency,
Okay. Uh, giving presents or getting presents?
giving presents.
Okay. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
2,
Okay. The most valuable skill you've learned in your life?
listening,
Mhm. Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
texting.
Mhm. Your favorite Tiger King character?
I have not watched Tiger King.
Okay. All right. That's the end of the rapid fire round. Let's go on to the bigger questions now. Why did you start SocialFix? And how did you come up with the name SocialFix? As we know, this is the biggest mistake to starting a digital agency, but tell us more about it.
Yes. So it actually just kind of evolved from being in the technical field. Initially, I have a computer science degree from university and then ended up working in the IT field for about 7 years at one of the largest law firms in the world. And, just like everything else, life changes. You end up having a baby. I ended up having a baby, commuted for too many hours a day and ended up kind of starting on my own from home, utilizing whatever skill sets that I had, and that's how the agency was born. It actually became Social Fix a little bit later. It was originally a different company name, and we had started building of all things, a social networking platform before Facebook was even in existence. So at that time, the biggest social networking platform was Friendster. So
Mm.
we had started kind of building something similar to that involved a bit more social networking features than Friendster had, and we were going to call it Social Fix, and just kind of evolved from there into an agency. A lot of people wanted to know, how are you guys doing it? How can you help us? And it just kind of changed.
Interesting. So, how does a social network become a digital marketing agency? Like, what was the process by which you guys ended up doing that?
Just organically, it just changed. People really liked the work that we were doing for our own platform, which eventually we ended up retiring. And from there, we had built another platform for lead referral networking. It was called Quote City. And, people really liked it. They ended up being very interested in the skill sets that it took to actually build something like that, from the
Mm-hmm.
creative side of it to the engineering side to the technical side. And they started we started getting business to actually do that for other people. And over time, it grew into an agency of about 40 people right now that includes a technical department, a video department, a content department, and a marketing department.
I see. Interesting. And what year was this that you had this social network? Because if I were to think of like the time you're talking about, it's when a lot of social networks are trying to become Facebook, and a lot of them are unable to, like Google Plus, which just disappeared after a while.
It was 2004.
Yeah, yeah. Because Facebook wasn't around then, was it? No, it came around.
Correct.
Yeah, just later. Yeah. Okay, interesting. All right. So you were in the middle of that whole rush for getting the social network. Interesting. Okay, so the next question is, what do you think is the most important to keep in mind when creating a social media strategy to generate quality leads?
So the right approach, I mean, it really varies depending on who your audience is, where they like to congregate, where they get together, where they consume their content. But generally, for quality leads, um, you know, our approach is to look at what does your audience need. So what are they looking for that you can help them with? What kind of content or skill set or approach or strategy can you provide to them that they can use to better their own lives? And based
Mm,
on that, you will gain followers. And from the followers and from the awareness that you generate about yourself, you can generate a lot of quality leads. So always try to give people something first, especially on social channels, before you ask for anything back. Because ultimately, a lead is something that you're selling. You're selling your audience, them giving you their information, right? So
mhm,
anytime somebody lands on your website, for example, you're pitching and you're asking them, well, can I have your email address? That's a payment
mhm,
form in a sense. Getting somebody to follow you on your social channels, you're selling that to them. You're saying, give me your follow or give me your like in exchange
mhm.
for something that I'm going to provide to you. I have to add some kind of a value to you. So it's always with that in mind.
No, yeah, I completely agree because even at Outgrow, it's kind of the similar because everything is, well, we try to tell our clients that everything kind of has to be locked behind a lead generation, but you will only generate a lead if you're providing a value of some sort. And nowadays, there's so much information, there's so much competition in general to get that lead, to get someone's email, that unless you're actually providing something of real value, it's just the person's just not going to follow you back, or like give you their email. And like one of the examples, because you mentioned lawyers and it's been like stuck in my head since the beginning, was that there are a lot of lawyers websites, and most of them have like a contact me kind of call to action, and that's not really very appealing if you have so many to go through. So instead, if someone had like a simple quiz or like a recommendation that says, see how much I can save you in legal fees, that's actually providing a concrete value, that would be a much more valuable thing for someone to like give the lead for. So that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in some sense, you're always negotiating or you're always selling something in every interaction. And at the end of the day, we want people to have a positive interaction with the brand or with the website or whatever the company or service provider it is, so that even if they don't necessarily need what you have today, they've had a positive experience. You
Hmm.
continuously provide value to them over time, and eventually you will see that growth kind of magnify for the business and for the brand.
Yeah, so they just enter the marketing funnel and they might not convert today, but eventually one day they would be in that funnel because they kind of subscribe to you. So yeah, completely agree. The next question is, when it comes to paid ad campaigns, do you think it's a science or an art? How do you go about creating a successful paid campaign?
That's a great question. So, from my experience, it's a bit of both,
Hmm.
right? So it depends on what industry and what market you're entering. So, for example, if you are in an established market and there's plenty of data benchmarks. You could have comparative information that you can look at other lookalike brands and see, what they have been able to achieve, what some of their data looks like. It's more of a science. So, when you're deciding what uh, keyword terms or what campaigns will convert the best or what words you want to use in a campaign, there's a process that you can follow that relies on data, and then you go through an iterative process to achieve the best result possible over time. When you're in an emerging market and there's limited data, or it's such an innovative product that you don't necessarily have a roadmap to follow, then it's a little bit more creative because you have to think about, how do I introduce my product? How are people looking for me that may not even know that my product or service exists? How can I collect data to begin the process of becoming a little bit more data driven and have a bit more of a scientific approach to it? And then based on that, how do I iterate? But just like a gambler at a blackjack table, you always want to make sure that your odds are at least slightly in your favor, or that you have a chance in winning before you even start the process.
Okay, that's a nice analogy. Okay, so how important do you think it is to be interactive and engage with your audience or potential customers?
So we live in a world where experiences drive all of our interactions.
Mm,
People are, starving for a connection. They want to belong to something. They want to be part of a higher cause. Everything we do to interact with our customers, our fans, our audience is just another step to strengthening that bond and the relationship and going deeper into the funnel. So the deeper you get into the funnel, the more likely you are to get to a conversion point. So, from my perspective, it's imperative that we're interactive. However, um, there's a lot of brands out there that are going overboard, I feel like. They need to be careful and make sure that they're being authentic and transparent. They need to engage on a level that's agreeable to their audience without losing their trust or diluting their own message. So,
mm.
it's important to have and to note that not all products and not all brands need to be so deeply connected in the lives of their users. So, being aware of the role that you have in the minds of your audience is also a good guide on how hard you should try to be important, in quotes, in their lives as well.
No, I completely get it that when you want to be interactive with your audience, there still needs to be some sort of a strategy behind it, and it needs to be, well thought instead of just like inundating or like flooding people with like interactive things or constantly bothering your customers with something because that could just get annoying. Because I remember going on some websites and there's just so many pop-ups like, oh, do you want to try this? Do you want to try this? Do you want to try this? I'm just like, okay, no, no, just leave me alone. I know what I want and I'm here just to just to get that. And so yeah, I completely get that there needs to be some sort of strategy behind it. All right, so the next
Hmm.
question is, what are the top three underrated social media platforms according to you?
Underrated.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to start with overrated, we can do that as well.
Well, right now there's, in my opinion, one that's slightly underrated. But what are our choices, right?
Mm,
Obviously, TikTok was the most underrated about a year ago, but and now it's the fastest growing platform. I think there are about 738 million downloads of TikTok, either per day or per year or something to that effect. I read the other day. And it's one of the first apps to come out of China, and it's captured a really massive global audience. But just a short
mm,
while ago, it's completely underrated. Um, then we have WeChat groups, which are really popular, and they are also growing in popularity. And not necessarily, a lot of brands are not necessarily taking advantage of them. Instagram stories is
mm,
I think pretty standard at this point. It is interesting how a lot of brands are still not necessarily utilizing it to the best of its capabilities. So, that's something to definitely think about why a brand is not taking advantage of stories. LinkedIn is a powerhouse business platform. So, from the groups to the high interactions and, a ton of relevance, um, that one can't really be off the list. So I don't feel it's underrated. The thing that I feel that is happening under the current right now, under the
Mm,
surface, is that there's actually a shift to move away from these traditional social media platforms, because a lot of brands and a lot of users are getting the feeling that some of their algorithmic changes and the demotion or the censoring of certain type of content is actually working against the platform, and people are looking for other ways to connect to each other that is not censored. So, for example, if you have a brand that's trying to put out a certain type of ad in a certain type of industry that, for example, Facebook does not like, um, they will not allow your ad to show up to your own audience. They don't allow your own organic posts to even show up in your audience's feed. And these are people that have already liked your page and they want your
mm,
content. Um, so they're making it hard for people to reach their own followers. So a lot of
mm,
activity has been shifting away to direct text messaging platforms. Like, for example, Easy Texting is a platform that is opt-in marketing, and they are on par to grow exponentially in the next 5 years or so. I mean, so some of the research that's out there that has looked into this is that a lot of customers prefer to communicate over text messaging with a particular business, and not necessarily all businesses are providing this service. But if you really want to know what's trending, I always say look at the two P's: look at porn and look at the political arena, and you will know what's going on.
well, that's totally true though, because if one were to look at like similar web, or if you look at like the biggest traffic generators, it is politics and porn. You're completely right. And I guess porn is pretty much at the forefront of technology because that is the most visited websites, one of the most visited websites on the planet. I think, yeah. Okay. But there was something else that you had said. Yes, Facebook. I did read, like, I think this was last year, maybe 2 years ago, that Facebook said that it's consciously going to limit how much you see from business pages. So if I am just a Facebook user, I'm not going to see so much from even business pages that I've liked to subscribe, because they don't want business posts reaching me. They just want my friends' posts reaching me. So you're right. So it then that then it follows that business is going to move away from core social media into the new things like you're talking about, like the text platforms. I actually never heard of any text platform before, but now I'm going to keep my eyes out for them. All right. And have you mentioned TikTok earlier? Have you actually advertised? Has your agency advertised on TikTok for any client?
Yeah, so a lot of the TikTok activity that we actually do is through influencers. Um,
Mm,
it's it's a much different feeling on TikTok than on Instagram, and just from looking at it from an organic perspective of how the interactions are occurring, it's a lot more heavy duty interaction. Your content is not as censored, and a lot more people are engaging with it, which is really ironic because it's a Chinese company. So
yeah. Which I think, like, at this point makes sense now that we're seeing the rise of China. There's gonna be a lot of Chinese companies dominating the market, just as there was back in the days of Mark Zuckerberg, which these are still his days, but I mean like 2004. Yeah,
mhm.
okay. I was going to say, I actually saw an advertisement for, was it Volkswagen that recently made, because Volkswagen had put some advertisements on TikTok where they were actually playing with the patterns that people tend to replicate on TikTok to create an advertisement. So that was a creative thing that I saw. But anyway, the next question is, what are do you want to talk about the overrated social media platforms, or are we just going to include Facebook in that? Because we already talked about how it's not working that well nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook has, I think, the most number of users or the most signed up
Mm,
users. Whether they're active or inactive, is a good question. But they are definitely overrated. I've personally watched it degrade over the years, where we were getting phenomenal engagement on ads on Facebook. We were getting a great cost per click. Um, it made a lot of sense. The impressions were there, and now it's just completely declined. So I'm not really sure if it's because people are no longer paying attention, or it's because the ads are being demoted or censored in some way.
mm,
That's really a question for Facebook, but I have seen that happen in real time, where they were the preferred platform, and now it's almost like an eye roll.
mhm.
Just having to get your ad approved is a bit of a nuisance. So.
Yeah, and one would just like in most cases put ads on Insta stories via Facebook because Facebook owns Instagram. But yeah, for core Facebook marketing, I'm not so sure. But like small businesses do still have, business pages because I guess it's easy to just make one and take bookings from Facebook directly because now they have this widget that allows you to do that. So yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
but it is a pretty much of a stagnant thing. And also what they did with the cryptocurrency Libra, which I think was quite the talk of the town for like 2 months, and then people started withdrawing like the partnerships that Facebook had made with like, I don't know, a couple of big companies. They started withdrawing. They're like, we don't want Libra, blah blah blah. So yeah, okay. So Facebook, we're gonna put in overrated for now.
Yeah, I mean, whatever even happened to Libra, right? It was the hottest thing to talk about 6 months ago, and now there's not anything about it. I guess they just pulled out of it. Um,
Yeah, I think I heard Stripe said one of like I did hear like a lot of big companies saying we are pulling out of Libra. Like Stripe said we will not be accepting Libra. Initially, Stripe said they would, but then they said we won't be accepting it anymore. So and then that just started a whole thing, and now no one talks about it. So
right, right.
okay, so the next question is: a lot has been said about influencer marketing. Do you think it works?
Yeah, so the short answer, absolutely. It does work, but the long and more complicated answer is, it really depends on the influencer. So there's a lot of questions to ask, and if you're looking to pay someone to do influencer marketing, or you're looking to engage with an influencer, there's a lot of questions to ask beforehand and a lot of data to analyze. So some of the questions are, how was the audience built?
Mm,
Were any followers purchased? What is the engagement rate on content produced by the influencer? And then the big kahuna question is, how are you going to measure a result? Now, even if you're looking at the static data that's currently published on an influencer's feed, it does not mean that it's accurate, because you can purchase followers, and you can purchase
mhm,
likes, and you can purchase views and impressions. The trick is to follow an influencer over a period of time and see how their audience grows. That's ultimately what's going to tell you whether it's an actual a real audience, because everybody has bots and everybody has fake accounts following them. You can't really help that, but you want to know over time, what is the percentage of that breakdown? How many
mhm,
of the 100, let's say 100 influencers that you have, how many of them are fake? How many of them are real? And then based on the real number, what is the real engagement rate? So if you have 10 real followers and 10 of them are engaging with you, that's a great engagement rate. But ultimately, it's kind of like a black box. You don't know what you're getting into until you try it out and look at it real time. and you spend enough time with a particular influencer to see if they're driving a result.
That's true. And is there nowhere on the internet where one can check a fake follow account? Because I thought there were some websites where you could just like for Twitter, you can definitely do that, I think. I don't know about Instagram.
Yes, except that they are scraping their data, so it's not necessarily even accurate, and you don't
Hmm.
know what the historical trend actually look like. So you don't know at what point did they gain massive amounts of influencers. Were they real? Was there a particular event that took place that generated these followers, or were they purchased? Um, so it's an interesting field that's emerging right now, and it's completely non-regulated. So there's quite a bit of fraud that goes on. A great platform, actually, if you're looking to engage with influencer marketing, is Meet Silo. It's MEETSYLO.com. And they
Hmm.
actually validate the data and let the brand know what is real and what could potentially be fake.
Okay. All right. Meet Silo. Okay. The next question is, well, this is the final question. What are your top three tips for creating a brand strategy that is able to break free of the clutter that we see around nowadays?
That's a great question. It's a very important question as well. And I feel like my number one item is the market. So to me, I always say the market is king. You know, people say content is king, this is king, that's king, whatever. But ultimately, the market is going to determine whether there's a need for the product or the service that you're offering. So, like, I'll give you an example: telemedicine, right? So
Mm-hmm.
telemedicine was an emerging field. There was quite a bit of chatter about it last year. You know, there's some advancements that are occurring, but there's no actual mass adoption of the technology in scale.
Mm.
What happens in March? You know, everyone is all of a sudden interested in telemedicine, and it's become widely used. Everybody talks about it. That's the first thing they think about if they have an earache or, you know, some kind of a rash or something like that where they're trying to avoid the hospital. So it was instantaneously adopted by the market based on the conditions that are occurring in real time. And it solves
Mhm.
a challenge and people will pay for it. So that's number one. The second thing is identifying your audience and your audience persona, right? So, who is the market that you're looking to target? Do they need a problem solved and are they willing to pay for it? How are you talking to those people and where are you reaching them? So that's the second tip of getting that accurately done. And then the third is your competitors, right? So and partners. Are there competitors out there that could be in partnership with you to launch a product, or are they going to look to squash your innovation, or would they
Mhm.
be potential buyers of your innovation? So, how
Mhm.
can you leverage your relationships that you have out there? How can you develop new relationships, and can you work together in partnerships?
Okay, those are really three really interesting examples because now that I think about it, even on our software, there was a huge spike. Well, related to what you said about the telehealth, is because people were avoiding hospitals, and hospitals were also consciously, trying to keep the people whose cases could be solved in their houses, like whatever mild symptoms, not the coronavirus symptoms, but regarding other things if they could be solved in their house, then they would just want them to do it in their house. So we had a lot of interest from clinics and everyone who wanted to put up on their website interactive content that would just ask you a couple of questions and determine whether you actually had a particular disease or something, or whether you were just like, whether they were just mild symptoms of something else. So that's interesting. Those three tips were also really interesting. But that's the end of the this episode. Do you have anything else to say? Add to this?
No, thank you so much for inviting me. I think that you guys have a really phenomenal platform, and I think that everybody should pay very close attention on how to create interactive content because ultimately, I like to say we're all brands are entertainers at this point, right? So we need to engage and entertain with our audiences and produce the type of content that they're looking to engage with. So, yeah, looking forward to all the latest developments, and thank you for having me.
All right. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's Marketer of the Month episode. That was Terry Tateossian, who is the founding partner at SocialFix, which is a digital marketing agency based in New Jersey. Do check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month. Thank you.